Hello and welcome to our August 14th, 2026 Freshet Friday podcast. In this week's episode, we look back on the life of Lou Sekora, one of Coquitlam's most colorful politicians, dig into the latest batch of candidate announcements for this fall's civic elections, explore why New Westminster needed to come up with a new bathroom strategy, how Burnaby Village Museum is reflecting on the voices of its community, and what to expect at the BC Premier Baseball League Junior Division Western Canadian Under-18 AAA Championships at Mundy Park this weekend. I'm your host, Geof Wheelwright, and with me on the podcast this week are the veteran journalists and founders of Freshet News, Janice Clue, Teresa McManus, and Mario Bartel, as well as our summer intern, Liam Robert Scott. They will give us their take on all of these happenings in Burnaby, New Westminster, and the Tri-Cities. Welcome back, team.
Hey, Geoff. Hey, Geoff.
So maybe we can start with a look back at the storied life of Lou Sekora, who passed away earlier this month. Do you want to start this off with some of what you've learned as people reflected on his time in public life in Coquitlam, Janice?
Yeah, Geoff. Lou was larger than life. I remember him as a mayor. I remember him as an MP, as a citizen judge, and he passed away on August 1st. We found out last week that he had died. He was 94, and he had a long illness, probably for about a decade. He was known as Loud Lou for a reason. He was quite blustery. He was our mayor in Coquitlam for 14 years, and colourful is probably a great word for him. I talked to his executive assistant when he was MP, Ann Curtis, and I spoke to Craig Hodge, who covered him when he worked for the Tri-City News. And I spoke to May Reid, who was a councillor at the time when Lou was mayor. It was kind of hard to get people to say kind things about him, frankly. He was so loud and so, like I said, blustery. He did some good and he did a lot of bad things as well. But he will be remembered for bringing Town Centre Park and City Centre to fruition, Evergreen Cultural Centre. His name is on a lot of things in Coquitlam. He was born in Saskatchewan, and he was the second of 15 children. I remember him telling me that it was like growing up in a community centre. He came to Vancouver when he was a young man, and he was well known in the community as he was elected potentate of the Keys of Shriners of BC. And he was a lifetime member. And he leaves behind his partner, Sylvia, daughter, Louise, and a sister, Kay. And there's going to be no funeral service for Lou. But we are gathering a lot of information about him and what people remember about him.
And Mario, you had a wonderful photo retrospective. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, Lou was kind of an old school politician. And back at the time in the early 90s, when I got here, mayors still knew the value of a good photo op. And getting in the paper was something they wanted to have because it helped bolster their image and polish their image. And Lou was always up for a good photo op and was always very jovial about it. And so, yeah, I mean, we had searched through the archives and brought back some memories for me covering some of the things he did. I'd completely forgotten that I was there when they unveiled the crest for the new city of Coquitlam, which is kind of a cool historical moment, and saw a lot of other photographers that I worked with back in the 90s and the credits of the photos that are in the archives. And, it's kind of a time that, like I said, mayors knew the value of a good photo op, and Lou was a good sport about it. Janice mentioning he was a lifetime Shriner member. I mean, picturing Lou in a fez totally tracks. It completely fits. As a photographer at that time, you appreciated a mayor who would play along and not, nowadays everything's about social media and they don't do the same kind of wonky things like kick a football to open football season and that because, God forbid that something go wrong and it ends up on social media and they look like fools. And of course, no one has the staffing anymore to go and cover these kind of things. So they don't even bother putting them on anymore. I mean, I remember where I worked in Ontario one year, one of our photographers at the paper I was working in Oshawa was sent to a store opening in Whitby. It was a women's clothing store. He managed to convince the mayor of Whitby to put on a dress. Now that's like going way beyond a ribbon cutting, but that was the time and everyone was competitive and you wanted to get a good, interesting photo. And if you had a good mayor, someone like Lou who would play along, it made your job easier and it increased the chances they'll get in the paper.
Yeah, I mean, he sounds like a lot of the politicians around that time were very colorful. I mean, I'm thinking of Frank Ney in Nanaimo, and of course Bill Vander Zalm, and
Yeah.
characters who were very much larger than life, and that
Bill Copeland and Burnaby.
yeah,
Yeah.
that we put him in that category.
A lot of the work that was done during Lou's time was mostly managed by Don Cunnings, who passed away a couple of years ago, and he was the parks director. So when we say Lou, we also say Don Cunnings because a lot of the groundwork and the fruition in town center and city center in Coquitlam were done by Don in conjunction with Lou in the political realm.
Was there any official recognition by the existing council?
There has not yet been. No.
Okay.
I do know that Mayor Richard Stewart did put out a post remembering Lou, but those two did not get along at all.
Well, that sounds like time to make a pretty appropriate pivot from the life of one local politician to the many candidates for political office that are coming forward for this fall's local elections. So I know lots to talk about. Do you want to start, Janice?
We got three candidates that I wrote about in past week. One is a school board candidate. His name is Michael Bauman, and he has a PhD. He's running for Coquitlam School Board. We also have a SFU student running for Coquitlam Council. His name is Ali Sina. He's 21. He's a computer science major and a poli-sci minor. And the last one is Genevieve Kyle-Lefebvre, and she is also running for Coquitlam City Council.
Wow. It's getting to be a long roster.
It is, and the last civic campaign that Mary and I did in the Tri-Cities, we had 80 candidates running for mayor, council, and school board. So we anticipate pretty much the same amount this time around in the Tri-Cities.
Wow, that's going to be something. How about you, Mario?
Yeah, we've had a couple new candidates step up in the past week. Sebastian Moon, he's a 27-year-old entrepreneur in the health supplement business. He's stepped up as an independent candidate for council. And another fellow who's part of the Voice slate, the new Voice slate that's headed by mayoral candidate Haven Lerbecki. She's been joined now by a fourth council candidate, Reese Mack. And he's a government comms person, but he has an interesting background. And it just sort of mentioned in a little bio on the Voice website that he was also a child actor. So, of course, I IMDb'd him, and it turns out he has an uncredited role as a Slytherin student in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
Wow.
And then he went into the special effects makeup side of the business, and he has several credits there, including the Disney film Tomorrowland, which, as I recall, much of it was filmed in the Lower Mainland here. I think there was a set, an outdoor set somewhere in Burnaby, down in South Burnaby at one point. So yeah, that's kind of an interesting little bit of backstory on a political candidate.
Well, it's not only politicians that are in the news, but fires are also very much in the news throughout the province right now, and our community's no different. This last week saw the Coquitlam RCMP start looking for clues to the start of the recent wildfire in Tumukton-Bilkara Regional Park. And I know that Liam and Janice are keeping track of both where there was smoke and where there might have been evidence of how this fire started. So maybe we'll start with you, Liam.
For sure, Geoff. So the Anmore fire, from a reporter's perspective, was an intense story to cover because, I arrived while residents were still very much preparing for the possibility that they might have to get up and leave at any moment's notice. I spoke with Anmore resident Harriet Chang, a very wonderful lady who is an Anmore resident and whose family had, packed documents, medication, photographs, and supplies for their cat as this 1.5 hectare fire sent smoke and ash throughout the whole neighborhood. She also was very kind to help point me in the right direction towards where the fire occurred, which allowed me to grab the photos that I did on that day. So that's all thanks to Harriet. And while I was there, I also had the pleasure of meeting Diego Molina. Now, he came by. He's a character of a guy. He came by on a motorcycle and just said, "Hey, are you a reporter? I got some photos for you." And then he asked me for his email, and then he just drove off. Just very, very story, cooler than I'll ever be, to be honest with you. So I went to the site, and there was still very much kind of the embers of a fire occurring. And just the vastness of it was quite striking, and how close it was to these residences, Geoff, was quite eye-opening, to say the least. And the Coast Wildfire Center cited the fires being on Bedwell Bay Road, and the suspected cause being possibly human-related. The BC Wildfire Service later reported that the fire was being held, meaning it was not expected to spread beyond its containment lines. The village of Anmore rescinded the evacuation alert for the 35 properties that were given those orders, and residents of the 2 evacuated homes were allowed to return as well. Now, the Coquitlam RCMP has been investigating the cause and have asked anyone who was in the area between 1 and 4 p.m. on August 5th, the day of the fire, to provide video footage or information. And that's sort of where we're at with that one, Geoff.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. Anything you want to add there, Janice?
Well, the fire did happen on August 5th, and 2 days later, we did get this RCMP investigation press release. This dash cam, cell phone, and residential surveillance images are sought for the areas of Sugar Mountain Trail, Crystal Creek Drive, Fern Drive, Magnolia Way, Hemlock Drive, Oak Court, Black Bear Way, Uplands Drive, and Deerview Lane. If you saw anything on August 5th between 1 and 5, please call RCMP 604-945-1550 and quote file number 20259.
Great. Thank you, Janice. And Mario, you got something to add?
I think one thing that this fire, caught a lot of attention because of where it is and its location to homes. That's kind of been in the background for the last several years in council discussions in both Port Moody and Anmore. Anmore's had several large development proposals come through, and what comes up time and again is the fact that there's only 2 roads in and out of Anmore. And should some calamitous fire happen, as we're seeing in the Okanagan, it could make a challenge for emergency services to get to it if residents are fleeing at the same time. And that comes up again and again in these in discussions that have happened in Anmore about development projects. So it'll be interesting to see how when councils get back into session in September, how this incident will reflect in further discussions as development. And I know Port Moody Fire Department has been very proactive about promoting its various fire smart programs to get people to ensure that there's no possibility of fires encroaching upon their homes and keeping clear areas. And down the road, it might be interesting to follow up to see if that incident spurred more people to take advantage of that program. Because, we see these things are becoming a reality. It's only a matter of time before something big happens close by. I mean, just ask the residents of Summerland.
Yeah, and in fact, 2 of my sisters actually live in the Okanagan. One lives in Naramata and the other one in West Kelowna. And at the moment, Penticton is packed with evacuees. And it's a really, really tough time there. And my heart goes out to them. And as you say, it's an illustration of the dangers that are there and the limitations that can come upon you very, very quickly. The Summerland fire, in less than 24 hours, it went from almost nothing to more than 10,000 hectares. So anyway, a big reminder there for all of us.
If I could just jump in for a moment, Geoff, still on the topic of fires, but of a little bit of a different sort. August 10th marked the 1-month anniversary since the apartment fire in New Westminster. And I've reached out to New Westminster Fire and Rescue Services to get a bit of an update on the status of that and find out how many folks have been placed in housing and whatnot. But I did hear from Mary Trentadue at New Westminster Neighbourhood House this week, and she said that the surplus donations that had been gathered, there was an outpouring of support from community members, and they were just overwhelmed with clothing donations for the victims of that fire. And the surplus was all boxed up a few weeks back, and they're going to be going to Chilliwack, and they're going to be used for distribution to fire victims across BC. So for folks that were wondering what became of all those donations, they are going to be getting put to good use.
Well, thank you for that update, Teresa. And after that fire news, I think we need a bio break, or at least news about where you can take such a break in New Westminster. And Teresa, you wrote this week about a new bathroom strategy under development by the city. You mentioned that after flushing plans for a standalone toilet on Begbie Street, the city's approved a citywide strategy on bathrooms. So do you want to fill us in on this?
Yeah, I think so. Local residents will probably recall this issue that arose in June of 2024 when City Council had approved a plan to put a standalone toilet facility outside of a condo building on Begbie Street. And needless to say, it did not go over very well with the residents of that building. And a week later, Council reconsidered, and at that point in time, directed staff to begin investigating a citywide toilet strategy. And so that's exactly what they've done. At the last council meeting before their summer break, they endorsed a policy and launch of that citywide toilet strategy this year. There will be some new toilets going in at the new section of Westminster Pier Park this year. Late summer, early fall is what staff said. More print materials are going to be developed so people are actually have an awareness of where they can access public toilets, more signage in the downtown and quayside neighborhoods. These are all issues that did come up at the time that this controversial plan was proposed. People were saying, well, we do have public washrooms, public facilities downtown. We just need to make people more aware of them. And then in addition to that, this year, staff are going to be trying to work with a nonprofit partner to find a way of improving late night access to toilets. And that's for people who are homeless. And then there's some short-term and there's some longer-term initiatives within this 5-year implementation plan. That includes installing more toilets, improving reporting tools. So if folks do go into a public washroom in New Westminster and it needs repairs or there's certain things wrong with it or whatnot, they'll have a way of reporting it. And then again, more signage. And all of these things are intended to improve access to toilets for all community members. But some of the groups that have been specifically mentioned are seniors and people with different health conditions, parents with children who might have little kids in strollers, and then of course the unhoused population.
Yeah, and where in the strategy is the maintenance? Because I would imagine that's one of the key things is for the bathrooms to be usable, they need regular cleaning and maintenance.
Yeah, that generally falls into the city's day-to-day, year-to-year operations. That hasn't come out as a specific task to be considered, but yeah, I'm sure that's something that staff will be talking about behind the scenes.
Well, thank you for that, Teresa. I got one more for you, and it's about additional public help for people dealing with the heat, because it's still hot outside. But you have news that help's now arrived to assist New West residents in beating the heat.
Yeah, City Hall back in June, I think it was, approved a Stay Cool Kits initiative. And basically, this is sort of a way to help tenants stay cool and comfortable in their homes. It's not a super costly undertaking in the sense that it's not requiring retrofits of units. It comes with, cooling towels, digital thermometers, reusable ice packs, a mister, and then some resources to help folks if they do need to, find a way of accessing other services in the community. I've seen some folks online kind of laughing at this a little bit and saying, oh, this is just a waste of time. But, I know that having lived in the rental buildings in New West for many years, those buildings get awfully, awfully hot. And there's a lot of folks in there that, if it's buying a reusable ice pack or putting groceries in the fridge, that's not going to be something that they're necessarily going to do. So the city's making these kits available. They're free. I know that there was a little bit of disappointment at there were some supply chain issues. They had hoped that these would come in earlier, but they've arrived. I went up to City Hall and checked them out on the week this week. And when I checked in at the front desk, they thought I was actually there to pick up my kit. And from what I've been told, that folks are really responding to these, and they can pick them up at different facilities around town, including Century House and the Queensborough Community Centre, I believe Thomas Out, Anvil Centre, and of course City Hall. So anybody who lives in one of the rental buildings in New West who wants to access a Stay Cool kit can go onto the city's website, newwestcity.ca, and complete an online application form, or they can call 236-984-0820.
Great. Thank you, Teresa. That's a big help. Speaking of people getting help, that's really the theme of our Freshet 911 segment. And I think we're going to kick off with a story about commercial vehicles and how they have been recently checked and many of them found wanting. So, Janice, I think you've got that one.
This is a regular blitz by Coquitlam RCMP and all the Metro Vancouver jurisdictions to check commercial vehicles and to see if they're actually up to snuff. On July 29th, I believe, Coquitlam RCMP were stationed for 3 hours at David and Pine Tree, which is up just north of Town Centre Park. A lot of vehicles pass through here, especially the dump trucks and construction vehicles from Burke Mountain. And of the 20 that they checked, more than half were taken off the road. They had a combined 47 defects and 17 tickets were issued. I am going out with the Coquitlam RCMP next week to do another inspection check, and we'll be reporting on how that goes. That's going to be in Port Coquitlam. This is dangerous when the vehicles travel very, very fast and they don't have their brakes working. Police are very concerned, when they start to run red lights, and they can be quite dangerous vehicles.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to be anywhere near one of those big trucks if they're losing their brakes or the driver isn't able to be in control. And I think we've got another story from Coquitlam about the Coquitlam RCMP, which has a new officer in charge. So I think it's you again, Janice.
Yeah, Coquitlam RCMP has a new superintendent. His name is Ian McMullen. He is originally from Halifax, and he has done some work in Ontario and in Surrey. He was named the new officer in charge on August 7th, and this is for the cities of Coquitlam and Poco, as well as the village of Amor and Belcara and the First Nations territory of Coquitlam. He replaces Darren Carr, who was only there for 2 years, and before him was Kenneth Bramwell, who was only there for 4 years. Seems to be a bit of a trend in Coquitlam where they bring in superintendents every 2 to 4 years. And good luck to Ian.
So was there a particular reason for the duration being fairly short, or is...
No, I can tell you that in the past 10 years, it seems to be quite regular where they hire somebody and then they go within 2 to 4 years. So I'm not sure what's happening in the water, the detachment, but this seems to be a trend. And Ian McMullen is our new superintendent for this year, hopefully.
So any other Freshet 911 stories?
Yeah, we had a tragic situation on Monday in North Burnaby. A 68-year-old woman was struck by the driver of a car at Pender and McDonald, and she did not survive her injuries. And we got some photographs sent by a freelance photographer who specializes in getting to scenes like this. We don't really have the resources to do that anymore. And it was pretty chilling to see some of those photos. I had to be very careful editing them because there was he got there after the fact, but there was some clothing left behind. It was pretty blood covered, and seeing some discussion about it on Reddit, it seems like emergency services showed up and we worked really hard to try and keep her alive, keep her going, and it just didn't work out. So RCMP has asked for any witnesses to come forward, or anyone with dash cam or security cam video from their doorbell or wherever in the neighborhood, so they can try and piece together exactly what happened.
Yeah, and where was this again in North Burnaby?
At Pender Street and McDonald.
Okay.
So I think it's a 4-way stop there.
Right. Well, thank you for that, Mario.
I just have one quick little item here from the New West Police Department. They are warning the public about fraudulent QR codes that are being attached to parking meters throughout the city. And I guess someone's gone around town and has stuck out some QR codes onto parking meters to make some quick cash, because people are scanning these and are being directed to what appears to be a legitimate site. and entering their credit card information only to discover that money has been withdrawn and it's not the city. One victim actually had $2,000 withdrawn from their account. So the police are going around and removing the stickers on these meters, said Sergeant Andrew Lever, and warning people that the stickers appear to be legitimate, but they aren't, and just to follow the actual signage on the machines when it comes time to paying for your parking.
Man,
Wow.
parking in New West is already expensive. Imagine paying $2,000 for your spot. Ugh.
There is no parking spot worth that money. Wow. Yeah, I mean, that would be a horrible surprise.
Yeah, and the city does not use QR codes for payment of parking. So that's just a warning to folks out there. Don't fall for it because it can be very costly.
In addition to which, because you then haven't really paid for the parking, you could get towed. So you paid $2,000 and you still got towed. That would be pretty awful. Wow. Well, now I'm going to turn to something a little bit more lighthearted. And Mario is going to tell us about Irish hurling. It's not necessarily what you think. So please tell us about the sport of Irish hurling.
Well, fresh off Janice's story last week about the village of Belcara's connection to the Gaelic football champions in Ireland, I've somehow had Irish sports on my brain. And my wife and I were out for a bike ride Saturday morning, and we were traversing Burnaby Lake Park, heading towards North Burnaby. And in the fields there appeared to be some activity, and I slowed down a little bit. And sure enough, it was the Vancouver Gaelic Athletic Association getting ready for their day-long festival of championship matches in Irish hurling. So I said to my wife, well, I quickly Googled when the matches would be, and saw that the men's championship match would be at 4:00. So I said, okay, I'm going to be going down to shoot that. And because it blended in well, because I was going to head over to Deer Lake Park and cover the Burnaby Blues Fest at 5:00 anyway. So just went down a little bit earlier, and what a crazy sport. It's like lacrosse and soccer and rugby all thrown into one. They're running around they look like old school hockey helmets, and little wire cages in front, and they have these bats that are like a field hockey stick with an extra wide head, and they bat this ball around, or they can also slap it. They can't catch it. They can't close their hand on it. Well, they can catch it, but they can't throw it. They have to direct it or slap it. And it's very fast and very chaotic. And it was a lot of fun to shoot. And it's neat because I talked to someone there, the head referee, during the halftime break, and he said, I asked him, why is this happening in Burnaby Lake? They have several leagues. There's a junior men's league. The women play a version of hurling called camogie. It's a little less violent. And the ball's a little bit lighter and smaller. I didn't see one of those matches. And they have an intermediate men's league, and they have 2 women's leagues, and then the senior men's leagues. There's like five leagues all told, and the teams come from around Metro Vancouver. It's all mostly Irish expats, so there was a lot of Irish accents being spoken. Some people were even speaking Gaelic. It was pretty cool. I felt like I was in Ireland, and there's quite a crowd there all around. People from the past matches who just stayed all day, and they make quite a day of it. And but he said that Burnaby Lake is one of the few facilities in Metro Vancouver that has big natural grass pitches for sports that like to play on natural grass. So there I was shooting Irish hurling, and on the neighboring field was Aussie rules football going on, and on the field behind me was cricket. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. It was kind of a cool vibe to be in. Three different continents represented in the sporting realm.
Yeah, that is really cool. So were you tempted to jump in and play any of them?
No, I'll stick to my bike.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, Mario. Now, I also wanted to ask you about another sports story about the end of the season for the Coquitlam Junior Adnacs. Do you want to tell us what happened?
Well, they didn't get to the Minto Cup. That's what makes this a bit of a story. I mean, the Junior Adnacs have been a bit of a dynasty in junior lacrosse. They won the last 2 Minto Cups. They won the regular season in the BC Junior A Lacrosse League this year, as expected. But they came up against their Waterloo was the Victoria Junior Shamrocks, and on Saturday they succumbed in 6 games in the BCJALL final. So yeah, it'll be Victoria going to the Minto Cup in Ontario this year rather than the Adnacs.
So they brought low the defending champions.
Yes.
Wow.
Still on the topic of lacrosse there, Geoff, just a bit of a shout out to the POCO Hitmen, who won the Senior C Provincial Lacrosse Championship last weekend at Queen's Park Arena in New Westminster. There was 6 teams competing for that, including the Queensborough River Rats and the Port Moody Express, as well as 3 teams for the island. Queensborough ended up placing 3rd in a shootout with one of the Victoria teams, and the West Shore Aces from the island, they captured the silver medal.
Wow. Well, I think I'm going to turn to you, Janice, for talking a little bit about the BC Premier Baseball League's Junior Division Western Canadian Under-18 AAA Championships in Mundy Park. That is a long, long sentence. But anyway, I'm going to turn to you to talk a bit about that, because I know you've been watching that one and being very close to it.
This is the Coquitlam Junior Reds. They're hosting the Western Canada Baseball Association's 18U AAA tournament at Mundy Park, as you had said. These are the best of the best 18-year-olds from Alberta, BC, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and of course the Coquitlam Reds. So there's 5 teams playing over the entire weekend, and it's at Mundy Park at Bill Green Field, just north of Mundy Park Pool, which we used to call Spaney Pool. It's going to be a very, very fun weekend. We've got food trucks coming out, and I will be there all weekend.
Fantastic. And will you be wearing a particular jersey that we should be looking for?
I will be wearing red.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you all. I'm going to turn to arts now. And Liam, you have a story about internationally acclaimed and more raised violinist Jack Campbell. Do you want to tell us about the upcoming performance?
I'm happy to, Geoff. So for this story, I spoke with, as you mentioned, Jack Campbell. Now, he's an internationally acclaimed and more raised violinist and composer who studied violin performance at UBC, and he is now pursuing a master's degree in music composition in Basel, Switzerland. This was ahead of this conversation I had with him was ahead of an improvised performance in Coquitlam, which is coming up on Friday, and he's being accompanied by pianist Hank Bull. Now, Hank is a Vancouver multidisciplinary artist and musician whose decades-long career spans performing radio, video, painting, sound, just about every medium you can think of, and he's had work exhibited internationally in institutions not limited to, but including National Gallery of Canada and the MoMA. Campbell explained how their performance rely on what he calls close listening and sort of an established rapport that he and Hank have sort of developed over the years. And that is completely improvised. And neither is actually going to know exactly what will happen on stage, which is quite interesting. I also spoke with Gregory Elgstrand. He's the director of an institution locally known as Bohart. And they're a Port Moody kind of based contemporary arts nonprofit. And they like to present kind of off-kilter stuff you wouldn't normally see in the contemporary arts vein. He likes to sort of fund and present those kind of concerts locally. He was, I spoke with him as well, and he's really excited about the upcoming concert, and it reminds him of when he would go to Coquitlam Center when it was just opening up, and he would go to these sort of empty furniture store. There's an empty furniture store at Coquitlam Center that he said he would go to, and they would show these kind of off-kilter, very contemporary, experimental musical art exhibits, if you will. And he's trying to really capture that sort of what he experienced with that for the younger generation with concerts like this. I also had the privilege of speaking with Helen Daniels. Now, Helen Daniels formerly ran the Gallery Bistro, which was a Port Moody restaurant and live music venue. And she met Campbell there, where he performed at their Monday night jazz jams as a teenager. Now, a funny exchange that Helen mentioned was she recalled her husband Rainer telling Jack, on the guitar, you sound like a mashup of Paganini, who, if anyone doesn't know who Paganini is, he's the famous Italian composer and a prolific violin master of the 19th century. So a combination of Paganini and Jimi Hendrix. And Jack said, I agree. And one fascinating part that didn't make the article that I'd love to highlight is Campbell described a recital he performed last November in Kiev during the continuing Russian invasion. And the most impactful experience of his life, he said, was performing this concert, both because of the courage he witnessed and the hope the Ukrainians kind of were able to display with their culture that he was sort of able to take in. And yeah, that's it was a wonderful conversation. And if anyone's interested, definitely check out his Friday show. It's called Spontaneous Compositions with Jack Campbell and Hank Bull, and that's happening Friday, August 14th at 7:30 at the Evergreen Arts Rehearsal Hall in Coquitlam. And tickets can be purchased through Bohart at bohart.ca. That's BOHART.ca. I know I'm going.
Fantastic. Well, hopefully others will see you there tonight. Thank you for that, Liam. Yeah, Janice.
Can I just, for longtime Coquitlam residents, Jack Campbell is the grandson of John Kishore, who was the MLA out here and had worked quite closely with Lou Sekora.
Oh, wow. Okay. Tying it all together. Well, Janice, that seems a good segue to talk to you about what else is on this weekend.
Well, tonight, Friday, there is Fridays on Front. It is Pride Night. That is the theme. It runs from 6 to 10 along Front. I went last week. It was just great. Lots of vendors, great vibe, and I highly recommend Fridays on Front. On Saturday, buckle up, Geoff. We've got lots going on here. We've got the Dumpling Fest in Town Center Park in Coquitlam. It runs from 11 to 8. That is presented by Gina Chong and the Asian Arts and Cultural Society. This is the 5th year, and that brings in more than 50,000 people to the park. So bring your appetite as well. Between 3 and 8 in New Westminster is the New Westminster Pride Street Festival. This is on Columbia Street between 4th and 8th Streets. This is a lots of fun, and Freshet News will be there tabling. Also on Saturday evening between 6 and 8 is the annual Port Coquitlam car cruise around the city. This is in promotion of the Sunday event, the car show and shine, and that takes place between 10 and 4 in downtown Poco. This is, again, lots of people come out, and lots of vintage cars, muscle cars, collectors' cars. It's a great day out. And of course, ironically, in Port Moody, it's the Car Free Day along St. John Street, and that's from noon to 5 on Sunday. Also a really great event for communities.
So all the cars that would normally be in Port Moody go over to Poco for the day. Just thinking. No, that sounds like a great weekend, Janice.
That's, yeah.
I am also now going to turn to you, Teresa, to talk about the kinds of things you might want to do to be a tourist in your own town, particularly when that town is New West, and what New West Tourism is doing.
Yeah, Tourism New West recently published their annual visitors guide, and it is a great little publication. It's available at different venues all around town, the kiosk at Amble Center, the library, City Hall, the hotels, obviously. And so this is sort of a twofold thing. Part of it is, to tell visitors what's available around town. But it's also a great thing for locals who are maybe looking to be a tourist in their own town and explore things. I know when I was talking to Jasmine Crisp, she's the marketing manager, Tourism New West, and she was born and raised in New West. And she said there's things in there that she had never gone to or never thought of attending, or is now looking at them through different eyes, and the eyes of a tourist. I know that there's one of the things that's in there that I've been meaning to do for a few years now. It's the Hidden Wonders Magic show. And so that's on my to-do list. But in addition to that, it does highlight some of the events that are happening in New West throughout the year, some of the big things. So as Janice has mentioned, the New West Pride Street Festivals in there for this week. But coming up, there's a couple of little things for next weekend. One of them is the Hayek Summer Music and Fireworks Festival. And so for all those people who are always asking about when are the fireworks, they're coming August 22nd down at the Quay, 4 to 10 o'clock. And And Hayek Festival is actually going to be the association's going to be the first group that's going to stage the first major kind of public event down at the newly opened western section of Pier Park. It's called Park C. And so at that particular area, they're going to be having a second musical stage, but they're also going to be having their first ever ping pong tournament. So something new for the Fireworks Festival. And then also next weekend, I will say that the Royal Canadian Legion is going to be celebrating its 100th anniversary on August 22nd. And this is going to be running from noon till 11 o'clock. There's going to be street closures, so folks should be aware that part of 6th Street will be closed to traffic next Saturday. And there's going to be entertainment, there's going to be a barbecue, there's going to be live music, from the regimental band will be there, the branch, Royal Canadian Legion branch, 2 pipe bands going to be there, and Smuggler's Trail, a Langley-based craft brewery, is also going to be there, unveiling their new Lest We Forget lager, and that one is going to be a special lager that's created for the Legion's 100th anniversary, and going forward after the launch in New Westminster, folks who do buy that at either Smuggler's Trail or at Legion branches that have off sales, New West doesn't, $1 from each of that will be donated to the Legion Foundation to support veterans. So that's going to be a big day. So just highlight that because I won't be here next week.
Well, that sounds great. Well, I'm also going to make a little plug here for our June 26, 2026 Freshet Friday, because that episode also highlighted how to be a tourist in your own town. So I would suggest any of our listeners who have enjoyed this, and even if you didn't, just go back and listen to that one that we did on June 26, because it was a lot of fun. So on that note, I'm going to turn to our favorite stories of the week. And Janice, you're first up.
Well, first, I wanted to congratulate Liam for covering the wildfire. I thought he did an excellent job, and he actually went to the site, got photos, and well done, Liam. That was, congratulations to you. But my favorite story of the week is one that will be appearing in next week's newspaper. It's, when you start digging in the archives, you never know what you're going to find. I went to the New Westminster Archives website, and I typed in August. And sure enough, there was a picture of Janice Switlow. If you don't know her, she was Miss Burnaby in 1979, and in August 1980, she was crowned Miss Vancouver World, and that allowed her to go to the beauty pageant, the national competition in Ottawa. As a result of that, I just typed in her name, and I talked to her, and I found out that she's now a lawyer in Edmonton, and she has had quite a life since she won these 2 beauty pageants. After she competed nationally, she got a call from Playboy and asked her if she wanted to have a spread done, and she said no. But she also, that next year, she graduated from UBC with her bachelor's degree in commerce, and then she moved to Toronto and she studied law at Osgoode Hall Law School. And then she became an international expert in Indigenous nations and treaties, and she wrote a book on Gustafson Lake. And like I said, she currently practices law. She's been doing that for 30 years in Edmonton. And the photo that we hope to run is from the Columbian newspaper.
Wow, that's a great story.
You never know what you're going to find.
No. How about you, Teresa?
Oh, well, there was a few to choose, but I think I'm going to go with Mario's photo feature about the Blues and Roots Festival in Burnaby. Really great photos, and really sort of captured the diversity of our communities here that we cover. And once, we've said it before, but, photos are one of those things that community newspapers are it's always been one of our strong suits. And so just so proud that we have like a great photographer, Mario, who's able to continue that tradition, which is so important. He referred earlier in the podcast about, some of the photos of Lou Sekora back in the day. And photos really are such a strong part of our product.
And Liam, what are your thoughts?
So I have two stories that really stood out to me this week. There's the Blues Festival, obviously, that Teresa just mentioned, that Mario did, was fantastic. Loved it for the same reasons. But the two that I really just gravitated with me the most would be, the first is the tourism New Westminster kind of story. Just because I've lived near New Westminster for most of my life, and I just going over that map that Tourism New West provides. There's so many things in the city that I didn't realize like they have. Like they have two arcades apparently. They have a House of Comedy. So I kind of realized, like, man, like I gotta learn a bit more about New Westminster. There's a lot of stuff to enjoy there. So I got to start kind of romping around New West a bit more. So I really enjoyed that story. I really enjoyed the quotes. How Jasmine Chris talked about being a tourist in your own city just really gravitated with me. I think when you're not always having the time to travel, you can take those opportunities in places local to you that you might not know as well as you think you do. And the second story is also Teresa, which is the climate cooling kits, that story that was recently released on the 11th. Now, this story is kind of, I think, really important to cover. During my time at Langara, I covered Marpole Neighborhood House in Marpole in Vancouver, doing similar cooling kits, and I just learned how important sort of these small measures, how far they go. With keeping people cool. So seeing that New West is doing it alongside, their maximum heat law and all these other things, it's just something that I think really needed coverage. And I think it was a great article and, really resonated with me for those reasons.
Right. Thank you for that, Liam. How about you, Mario?
Well, thanks for those shout outs about the Burnaby Blues Fest. That's what I was going to talk about, because it's been the first time I was able to shoot the Burnaby Blues Fest in several years, since the old Burnaby News Leader where I used to work closed. And it was kind of cool going back. I mean, I remember shooting the first one and several in its early incarnations when people had to pay to get in. It's now changed and it's a free show, a free festival all day. And it's a really cool vibe. I mean, I didn't recognize any of the performers, but I was there for a New Orleans kind of funk band called Galactic. And then they were followed up by Julie Brown. I think that's how you say it, a Canadian multi-Juno award-winning artist. And she was really fun because she managed to string out a Bob Marley song to about 25 minutes with talk in between and about female empowerment and really positive messaging in her music. And people were really responding. And it's such a great venue, Deer Lake Park. I had the privilege of, when they first started that venue, covering the very first concert there, which was the Beach Boys, and several concerts through there. There's many concerts that I'm sad I missed, like REM played there. But it'll be interesting to see how that venue is able to survive against the new Arch at the PNE, because they're both outdoor venues, and the Arch has a lot more amenities and with a roof on it, weather is not as big a factor. But it's a jewel to have a facility like that in Burnaby, where you can sit on the lawn, and it was a beautiful day, beautiful evening, and you see the lake in behind, people paddling by on paddle boards and kayaks and that, and just a really good vibe, real good family atmosphere. A lot of kids were there. It's free, so people can just come and go as they please. It's not like you're going to spend $60, $70. I mean, live music is so expensive now that to have the opportunity to see some renowned artists and Burnaby takes a pretty loose definition of what the blues are. So there was quite a diversity of music there. So it's highly recommended if you ever get a chance to go out, watch for next year's lineup and definitely make a day of it, because you can't beat the price.
No, that's fantastic. It sounds like a great day. I was going to highlight the Burnaby Village Museum story that I think you were involved with, Liam. And that story was about, we were talking about the archives earlier and about building history. Well, this is kind of trying to highlight the stories of people who haven't traditionally had the same opportunity to enter Burnaby's historical record. So people of cultural minorities, people of color, and sexually and gender diverse people. So I thought that was very cool. And the work that the assistant curator, Kate Petrusa, is doing to have recordings that'll become part of their permanent collection, I think is really good work. And I'm excited to see what comes of that. So thank you for that story.
Oh, thanks for that, Geoff. I appreciate it.
So that wraps up another Freshet Friday podcast, but we'll be back soon. In the meantime, keep asking yourself the question, is it Freshet Friday yet? And come on back when the answer is yes. Thanks to our team for being here. Thanks for listening, and have a great weekend.